Throughout history, the advance in technology and production has also led to the concentration of wealth among the super-rich of society. However, just as empires rise, so do they fall, and the same can be said about people. Although athletes and celebrities are the most well-documented cases of squandered wealth, they are not alone. Many prominent people across various industries have also fallen victim to greed, carelessness, and materialism. In the video today, the people who amassed a fortune only to end up in rags. Number 10. Mark Twain. Twain lost nearly $10 million before filing for bankruptcy at the behest of financier Henry Huttleston Rogers. Although Twain was a voice for the working class and the disadvantaged, Clemens lived a life of affluence and extravagance. He seemed to believe that his writing prowess extended to business, but unfortunately Clemens was a horrible businessman. Most of his wealth was squandered on investments and projects that proved fruitless. His failed business ventures included a publishing company and a page typesetting machine that cost him nearly $8 million in inflation-adjusted terms. Ironically, Clemens was offered the opportunity to invest in the telephone, but he declined, thinking that it wasn't realistic for everyday people to have one of these things in their homes. At the end of his life, Twain had to go on a speaking tour in order to pay off his significant debts. Number 9. Horace A.W. Tabor. In the 19th century, Tabor amassed and lost more than $3 million. Known as the Bonanza King of Leadville, Tabor was an American prospector, businessman, and Republican politician in the late 19th century. His wealth originated from the Colorado silver boom. Tabor owned 1/3 of a mine that had discovered huge amounts of silver. Tabor used his new capital to invest in another mine that was even more profitable. Tabor soon was a juggernaut, establishing newspapers, a bank, and an opera house. As it usually does, his wealth led to political success, and in 1878, Tabor was elected Lieutenant Governor of Colorado. However, the Sherman Silver Purchase Act decimated Tabor's fortune, and his far-flung holdings they were sold off. When he became ill with appendicitis in 1899, Tabor requested his wife, Baby Doe, to maintain his mine. According to legend, the wife of the Bonanza King lived in the tool shed of the mine for 30 years and died in that very shed. Number 8. Daniel Drew. Drew had a personal fortune worth up to $13 million, but died penniless, reliant on his son. Indeed, this is one of the most dramatic cases of a rise and fall on this list. Author and financier Henry Clues summed up his life with the following: "Of all the great operators of Wall Street, Daniel Drew furnishes the most remarkable instance of immense and long-continued success followed by utter failure and hopeless bankruptcy." Drew made and lost his fortune in the 19th century. It began with his entrance into the steamboat business. His success led him to start his own brokerage firm in 1844, where he began to speculate on stocks. In 1857, Drew became a member of the board of directors of the Erie Railroad and used his position to manipulate the railroad stock price. He colluded with Cornelius Vanderbilt to prop up the company's finances. However, Vanderbilt would soon turn to his antagonist as Drew attempted to sell a company stock short, and Vanderbilt and his associates bought every available share, causing the stock to spike up. After a small victory over Vanderbilt, Drew was betrayed by his fellow colluders as he attempted to manipulate the stock price of another railroad company. By 1876, Drew Daniel filed for bankruptcy and died dependent on his son. Number 7. Sean Quinn. Astonishingly, Quinn went from a net worth of 4.7 billion euros to nearly 3.5 billion euros in debt. One of our more recent cases of riches to rags goes to Sean Quinn. He also leads our list with the quickest turn in fortunes, going from the richest man in Ireland in 2008 to filing for bankruptcy in 2011. In 2008, Quinn's net worth was estimated to be £3.73 billion. He accumulated his wealth through several avenues, beginning with Quinn Cement. Like many others on this list, he used his capital to enter other industries and founded Quinn Group, which played a significant role in Ireland's hospitality sector. However, Quinn soon made an investment that would lead him to bankruptcy. With more and more capital, Quinn increased his family's stake in the Anglo-Irish Bank in 2008. As a result of the 2008 financial crisis and the losses sustained under Quinn Insurance, Sean Quinn soon filed for bankruptcy, reporting debts of €194 million. To make matters worse, the Quinn family was sued on multiple fronts for misusing their stake in the Anglo-Irish Bank to secure loans on properties. Eventually, Sean Quinn was sent to prison for 9 months. Number 6. Jack Whittaker. One of the saddest cases in this video goes to Jack Whittaker. It's an example that demonstrates the fickle nature of luck and chance and how it can sometimes lead to disaster. Whittaker won the largest lottery payout in West Virginia, an unprecedented $314 million. After taxes, Whittaker took a $113 million one-time payment. Before winning the lottery, Whittaker was the president of Diversified Enterprises Construction and already had a net worth upwards of $16 million. After winning the lottery, a series of incidents and tragedies they would befall the man, none of which were his own doing. In 2003, less than a year after Whittaker won the lottery, thieves broke into into his car while it was parked at a strip club and stole $545,000 in cash that Whittaker had in a suitcase. Why he would have so much cash on hand is beyond us, so we're going to put this one, a little bit on him. Personal tragedy, though, would hit Whittaker the hardest, as his granddaughter and her boyfriend were both found dead with cocaine and methadone in their systems. Whittaker claims to be broke as he has failed to make payments to a woman who successfully sued him, while he's also bounced checks at various casinos. Number 5. Mark Brunell. A series of poor investments saw Brunell lose more than $50 million. Although we suggested that our list would be comprised of non-athletes, this particular case has been underreported and also features a man that played a premier position in the National Football League. Mark Brunell played quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Washington Redskins, making the Pro Bowl 3 times. He earned more than $50 million during his NFL career, but was forced to declare Chapter 11 bankruptcy. In his declaration of assets, Brunell stated that he owed more than $5 million of loan guarantees to JWB Owner LLC and more than $4 million in personal loan guarantees to his defunct Champion LLC business. Most of Brunell's investments were in ill-timed real estate acquisitions and loans. However, it's not all bad news for Brunell. By filing Chapter 11, he'll be able to craft a more manageable payment plan to repay his creditors. Number 4. Rick Burton. This developer filed for bankruptcy protection, citing more than $300 million in debts. Filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy is a much more ominous endeavor, and that is exactly what Rick Burton, the Nevada developer, declared in 2012. Things were much different in 2008 when Burton outbid major players in Vegas for a project to build a private air terminal at McCarran International Airport. However, the project failed, and Burton's company was put under significant pressure by the weight of dozens of lawsuits from unpaid creditors. According to documents, Burton owed more than $310 million and only has $6,000 in assets at the time of filing. In addition, Burton's attorneys listed nearly 100 creditors owed a few $100 and $135 million owed to the state of Arizona for a land purchase. Burton also owes the IRS more than $6 million. The classic lesson here is don't bite off more than you can chew. Number 3. Clint Murchison Jr. Murchison Jr. squandered his inheritance of nearly $200 million and was forced to sell assets to repay debts of $500 million. It takes an extraordinary person to completely squander a fortune that they did not create, but that's exactly what Clint Murchison Jr. managed to do. He was the offspring of Clint Murchison Sr., an oil baron who had amassed a fortune of $500 million. Jr. did not have the business acumen of his father, and his only accomplishment was the establishment of the Dallas Cowboys. However, even this investment was not made with great foresight, as he sold the team too soon. The fortune would be squandered with a series of bad investments, along with a dip in the real estate market that led him into bankruptcy in 1985. His assets were sold off to satisfy over $500 million in debt. Number 2. T. Cullen Davis. Davis filed for bankruptcy after inheriting a fortune of $250 million. One of the richest men in this video, T. Cullen Davis also shares the distinction of losing it all. Once a billionaire, the oil heir inherited his fortune, and yet he still managed to lose it all. What makes Davis's case so dark and interesting is that he became the richest person to ever stand trial for murder. Cullen Davis inherited tons of oil-rich land from his family, but he lost it due to mismanagement and a recession. Davis was also known for having a bad temper, and in 1976, when his wife Priscilla Childers filed for divorce and was living with the boyfriend, a gunman broke into the house and shot them both. In addition, Childers' 12-year-old daughter was killed, but Davis's ex-wife managed to survive. Priscilla Childers alleged that it was Davis who had shot her and that his only disguise was a wig. In a dark twist, forensic investigators found that Childers' daughter was forced into the basement and shot while she was on her knees. A jury would later find Davis not guilty. Nonetheless, he filed for personal bankruptcy in 1986 with debts of over $230 million. Number 1. Jesse Livermore. One of the most riveting stories of rags to riches, then riches to rags twice over, goes to Jesse Livermore, known as the Boy Plunger. He amassed and lost a fortune in the early 20th century. Livermore was viewed as a genius for his ability to predict when to short sell a stock. In the crash of 1907, he made nearly $3 million, which, adjusted for inflation, would be approximately $1 billion in 2015. However, just as quickly as the money came in, he soon lost it. Taking the advice of another trader, he lost nearly 90% of his fortune on a cotton trade and proceeded to file for bankruptcy in the following years. However, Livermore was a resilient fellow and managed to regain his fortune during the bull market of World War I. Not only did he regain his lost capital, but he added to it during the 1929 crash. While the nation was in depression, he amassed a fortune of $100 million as a result of the crash. He proceeded to buy mansions around the world full of servants and housekeepers. Somehow, Livermore managed to lose his fortune in a manner that is still unclear to historians. Sadly, he committed suicide in 1940. So I really hope you found the video interesting. If you did, smash that like button below. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, why not check out my other channel called Biographics? We do biographies of notable people from history. So if you thought, this video was kind of interesting, it was about people, well, definitely check out Biographics. It is ideas are linked to below. And as always, thank you for watching.